This is only going to take about a half hour, I think. Of course, it's a little bit longer if we have more questions. But for now, I think what we can do is kind of get started. And I just want to begin by, again, welcoming all of you and taking time out of your Valentine's Day to talk about Social Security planning for couples. I'm happy that you're here because Social Security planning, is a really important part of the overall financial planning process. We use Social Security and Social Security benefits as part of the plans that we do for clients. And even though Social Security benefits are paid to individuals, the rules for spousal and survivor benefits means that couples, husbands and wives, and need to coordinate their benefits to make sure that they're making the right claiming decisions as a couple. So you'll see what I'm talking about as we go along. I'll also ask if for some reason you can't hear me or can't see the screen shared with you, please let me know so I can maybe make those adjustments as we kind of get through things here. So let's dig in here. First, I want to point out how valuable Social Security is. Social Security is one of the few sources of income that you can't outlive. If you're worried about running out of personal assets as you age, you don't have to have that fear with Social Security because it continues until you die. And of course, the longer you live, the more you will extract from the system. So if your benefit starts out at $2,000 a month and you live more than 10 years, you'll receive nearly $300,000 in lifetime benefits. If you live more than 20 years, you'll receive over $600,000 in lifetime benefits. And if you live 30 or more years, you'll receive over $1 million from Social Security over your lifetime. This assumes an annual cost of living adjustment, or COLA, of 2%. Now, over the last decade, 2% was a very reasonable, if not ambitious, cost of living adjustment for Social Security, because there were years, especially after the Great Recession, that there was actually next to nothing in terms of cost of living adjustments. Now, this year, if you haven't heard already, it was a roughly 6% cost of living adjustment on Social Security. So that helps. Now, why does that matter? Well, McDonald's raised their prices this last year as well. I mean, this is not an inflation webinar, so we won't get too deeply into that, but prices are going up. Social Security adjusts with those prices. So McDonald's raised their prices 6%. Social Security raised their cost of living adjustment to 6% this year. And so it keeps up with inflation, which is an important element that we're going to get into here in a moment. So second, if Social Security annuals, as I mentioned, Social Security offers these annual inflation adjustments. So here's where we see it in real terms. If your benefit starts out at $2,000 a month, and if the annual COLAs are 2%, in 10 years, you'll be receiving $2,438 a month. In 20 years, your benefit will be nearly $3,000. And in 30 years, your check will be a little bit more than $3,600 a month. And that's just with the 2% annual cost of living adjustments. And there's no way of knowing exactly what future COLAs will be. I still think, despite inflation and what's gone on recently, 2% seems to be a reasonable estimate. Historically, inflation is somewhere around 3 or 3.5%. And these COLAs keep up with that inflation. And that includes some of those big inflation years that some people of a certain vintage remember pretty explicitly and how much you were paying on your first mortgage in terms of interest. So Social Security keeps in line with that. So we're going to keep using these 2% cost of living adjustments when we're talking about COLA going forward. So as we get deeper into this, there are a few terms that you're going to need to understand here as well. Full retirement age is a Social Security term that describes the age at which you can start receiving full, unreduced Social Security benefits. Now, full retirement age used to be 65 for everyone, and that has changed. It's still 65 for Medicare, and that's why we get a little bit of confusion among some people. But in 1983, Congress raised the full retirement age, and that's gradually being phased in. So if you were born between 1943 and 1954, your full retirement age is now 66. If you were born in 1960 or later, your full retirement age is 67. And you can see in there, there's 2 months, 4 months, 6 months, 8 months, 10 months. The next important concept to understand is your primary insurance amount. So Social Security benefits are based on your work history. And the formula is kind of complicated, but I think the real important takeaway here is to know that it's based on your highest 35 years of earnings. So the more you earned each year up to the annual Social Security maximum, the higher your benefit will be. And Social Security continues to update your earnings record, even if you work into your 60s and 70s, and even after you've started receiving your Social Security benefit if you're still working. So if you're wondering how you might be able to increase your Social Security benefit, that's actually one way, is to keep working. It'll roll off that paper route you had as a kid, but we're paying Social Security benefits on. To find your primary insurance amount, all you need to do is look at your annual Social Security statement. It's your benefit amount at your full retirement age. And you'll see it with a yellow arrow here, or the orange arrow here. In this example, the benefit amount is at a full retirement age is $2,029 per month. That's the PIA, primary insurance amount. And that's the basis from where everything moves up or down depending on when you're collecting and not collecting. So this primary insurance amount is the key. If you're not, many people don't get their Social Security statements in the mail any longer. You can just go on the Social Security website and create an account and have it immediately and have a PDF of it. That might matter a little bit later as we talk into doing some more Social Security analysis. So now you can file at Social Security as early as age 62. But if I would say there's several reasons actually not to file before your full retirement age. The biggest reason is that your benefit is going to be permanently reduced. Also, there's an earnings test. So if you're still working, $1 in benefits will be withheld for every $2 you earn over the threshold. And that threshold is in 2022 is $19,560. So pretty easy if you're working to be over that threshold. And there are certain spousal strategies that are being phased out, but are still available to some people born in 1953 or earlier. But if you file before full retirement age, you can't take advantage of those strategies. And then finally, if you're the high earning spouse of the family, filing for early reduced benefits will actually lower your spouse's survivor benefit if you die first. And this is one of the most important reasons to not file for Social Security before full retirement age, because we'll be talking about this more later, but it's an important element for financial stability much later in life. So shouldn't apply early. When should you apply? Well, I think remembering these three key points is important here. If you apply early, your benefit starts lower and stays lower for the rest of your life. Cost of living adjustments, or COLAs, magnify the impact of early or delayed claiming. So the higher your benefit, the higher your annual inflation adjustment will be. So think about it. Just this last year, 6% on a larger benefit is a bigger cost of living adjustment, whereas 6% on a smaller benefit is a smaller cost of living adjustment. And so that a year after year of cost of living adjustments really magnify the difference. And the when to apply question impacts survivor benefits as well. The higher earning spouse should delay the start of benefits to increase income for their surviving spouse. The higher benefit will be preserved regardless of which spouse dies first. Delaying benefits is like getting extra life insurance that you don't actually even have to pay for. That's important. Okay, so we covered full retirement age, PIA, primary insurance amount. So we have the background understood now. Let's talk about spousal benefits. And these aren't just for non-working wives anymore. I will note also, as we dig in, the Supreme Court's ruled that same-sex marriage is legal in all states. And this means that same-sex couples who are legally married are eligible for spousal and survivor benefits the same as any other married couple now. So according to the rules, the spouse of a worker entitled to Social Security may claim a spousal benefit. Entitled means the worker spouse is eligible for Social Security and has filed for benefits. So let's use an example. Jack and Jill are married. They're both at full retirement age. Jack is paid into Social Security his entire life, and his primary insurance amount is a nice round $2,400. Jill has not worked and paid into Social Security. And once Jack files for Social Security benefits, Jill then may file for her spousal benefit. And Jill's spousal benefit is 50%, it's half of Jack's primary insurance amount, or $1,200. Okay. So now let's look at some savvy kind of spousal strategies that can come into play here with them. As a married couple, the amount of income you will receive and the total amount of benefits you stand to receive over your lifetime depend on when you each originally claim your Social Security. And there are several ways you can go depending on what your goals are, because goals should always kind of dictate the strategy here. Do you want maximum lifetime benefits over your projected life expectancy? Many people say yes. If so, you'll be taking less income now so you can have more income later. Now, conversely, you might want to claim Social Security at the earliest opportunity. I'm going to stop here and say, please do not say you want to claim Social Security at the earliest opportunity because you're worried about Social Security running out. If you are contemplating taking Social Security, that really is not a concern. Now, if someone is in their 20s, they have much more serious Social Security concerns than you do, maybe in your 50s, 60s, and 70s. So I will dispel that notion of Social Security running out for you now. Now, if you claim at your earliest opportunity, regardless of the reason, this is going to give you more income now, as you might imagine, but less later, because we talked about the reduction in primary insurance amount. Generally, we don't recommend taking Social Security early because you start out with a lower benefit, and it really does, even with COLAs, it doesn't keep a good job. It doesn't do a good job of keeping up with inflation. Now, some couples actually like what we call the hybrid strategy, which gives some income now and then more income later. So let's take a look at some examples here. In this example, Joe and Jane are both 58. Joe is the higher earner of the two and has a primary insurance amount of $2,400. And we're going to assign him a life expectancy of 85 years, which is about average. Jane's also worked and paid into Social Security. She has a primary insurance amount of $800. And we're going to assign her a life expectancy of $95 because she could live that long, and we want to see how Social Security plays out if she does. These are the inputs we're going to use in our spousal planning analysis, where we produce some claiming scenarios. We'll talk about this a little bit more. This is something we can do for you if we have your Social Security statements. Okay, so let's move. Let me get through here. Okay, so let's look at the strategy for claiming the earliest benefits. Okay. If Joe files at 62, his starting benefit would be $1,680, which is actually only 70% of his primary insurance amount. And this is his permanent benefit. It wouldn't go up once he hits full retirement age. And then if Jane files now, she'll be filing for both her own and her spousal benefit. So her starting benefit will be $820, or about, and we'll get into the math here just briefly, 34% of Joe's PIA. This is actually a combination benefit consisting of her own reduced benefit of $560 plus a reduced spousal add-on of $260 for a total benefit of $800. This is also a permanent benefit, so of hers until Joe dies, and then Jane would step up into Joe's higher benefit here. Okay. So now let's see what would happen if they both claimed at age 70. Joe's benefit would earn 3 years of 8% delayed credit. You get an extra 8% every year you wait. So that's going to give him a benefit of just short of $3,000, $2,976. Jane's benefit maxes out at 50% of Joe's PIA, right? Remember, that was $2,400. So that would give her a Social Security benefit of $1,200. These numbers don't include cost of living adjustments. So by the time they actually get to age 70, the amounts are going to be a bit higher than this. Now, under the hybrid strategy, they get some income now and more income later. And under this strategy, the higher earning spouse maximizes the benefit by waiting and claiming at age 70. The lower earning spouse gets some income started now or early by claiming at age 62. So in this case, Jane would claim her own reduced benefit at 62 and receive a starting benefit of $560. And then when Joe turns 70, he starts his maximum benefit of $2,976. And then remember, for every year he delays past his full retirement age of 67, his benefit increases by 8% a year. So again, we're not doing cost of living adjustments on these numbers. So by the time Joe gets to age 70, his benefit's likely to be higher than this. And then once Joe files for his benefit, Jane becomes entitled to her spousal benefit. And so her spousal add-on is going to be the difference between her PIA and half of Joe's PIA. In this case, it's $400. I'm going to do after this slide, you will see some bar charts that's going to maybe make this a little bit clearer. So she's going to get half of Joe's PIA, $400. This will be added to her existing $560 that she was claiming at 62, giving her a total benefit of $960. So not quite 50% of Joe's PIA or his primary insurance amount, but the reason is that Jane took that reduction for early claiming. So the spousal add-on is added on to the early amount she drew, not $800. So that's why we get that total benefit of $960 and not $1,200. We call this a hybrid strategy because it doesn't quite maximize Jane's benefit, but it does get income started a little bit earlier, which is helpful for some. So here's the chart I just promised you. It shows that this chart clearly shows which claiming strategy will give them the most lifetime benefits, assuming Joe lives to 85 and Jane lives to 95. And they don't include, in this case, cost of living adjustments. So just given these parameters, using these assumptions, the best strategy for this couple is going to be for her to claim early at 62, actually, and for him to claim at 70. And this isn't the case for all couples, but it shows that it's not as simple as claiming early, claiming on time, or claiming late. Working together can actually cause you to get into Social Security benefits sooner and actually maximize over your lifetime. And so this is why it's important to run a customized analysis for each couple. This is the chart I really want you to pay attention to, though, especially the women. If your husband dies first, which is not always the case, but it's statistically likely, your first year survivor benefit will be lower if your husband claims his benefit at age 62. And in this case, the wife in this scenario outlived the husband. And Jane's survivor income would be $23,000 a year if Joe had claimed benefit at age 62. But it would be over $35,000 if he had claimed the benefit at age 60. So when making your Social Security claiming decisions, think about how the age at which you claim your benefit is going to affect not just the income right now, but the survivor benefit down the road. Now, again, I didn't use cost of living adjustments for this. So the disparity between claiming early and later will actually be a little bit larger than what's being shown here because cost of living adjustments magnify all of this. I see a question here from Cheryl. Is the best case if a couple can to both take at age 70? Maybe is the answer. It really depends on your individual scenario. In fact, Cheryl, in the example that we just gave, it actually made more sense if one was wanting to maximize lifetime benefits, would be in the case of Jane and Joe, for her to claim early at 62 and him to wait until age 70. In fact, I'll go back here to help answer your question. So you'll see here, this is over if they both claim later, their lifetime cumulative benefit was 1.17 million. But if Jane claimed early and Joe claimed later, they actually made out over their lifetimes about $10,000 more from Social Security. Now, this is just numbers. We can't just look at the bar charts and say one's better than the other, because maybe they need to claim a little bit early, or maybe they absolutely want to keep working and she's still working and maybe doesn't want to claim at 62 instead of 65. So you can pretty much be guaranteed that if both spouses wait till age 70, you will definitely be ahead. It may not be maximizing. You might actually have some other things going on that would cause it to be a little bit better if one took early and one later. But really, it's dependent on each couple's work history and the kind of Social Security benefits they've tallied. And then health gets into it too. Remember, we're figuring on 85 and 95 years of age for life expectancy. If someone's not as healthy, that would maybe cause the analysis to be a little bit different. So, Cheryl, what I would do is I would say reach out to your advisor here and talk with them about running a Social Security analysis here, so we can kind of get that question decided for you. In fact, that's kind of where we're going with all of this. Is this three scenarios we've shown here, maximum, earliest, and hybrids, aren't actually the only ones available to you. If you have other ideas when you want to claim benefits, we can run these scenarios for you and see how they can compare. And then we can provide you actually with a customized report showing how several possible claiming scenarios compare to one another, including early, late, and hybrid like we just did today. It really all starts with those Social Security statements. And if you're able to download those and provide them to your advisor here so we can run the Social Security analysis for you. Good question, though. So I mentioned that this was going to be a relatively short presentation just because I don't think after 2 years of Zooming, I don't know how much we can all take. But before we wrap up, I do want to do just a quick review of the Social Security planning for couples with some of the key points. First, make your Social Security claiming decisions as a couple. Although benefits are paid to each of you individually, the decisions that one spouse makes directly affects the income of the other spouse, as we saw with the survivor benefits. Second, take advantage of those spousal benefits as the rules allow you to do. You might be able to maximize and take earlier in some cases. And then plan for the surviving spouse. Think about what's going to happen after one of you dies. That spouse's Social Security check will stop. So assuming the surviving spouse doesn't want to drastically change their lifestyle, he or she is going to need to find income from other sources to meet expenses. So figure out now where that income will come from. And then finally, work with us here to integrate Social Security into the rest of your retirement income plan. Social Security isn't enough to live for most people to live on. Not everybody, but most people. So you're going to need to figure out income from other sources, whether you have a pension, retirement accounts here, like the ones we manage here, investment accounts, whatever, rental income. We can help work with you and design a comprehensive retirement income plan that actually integrates Social Security with the rest of your resources with the goal of providing the income you need throughout your lifetime. And we can take a look and see what kind of trajectory you're on and, look at your income and your expenses. And if your expenses are above your income in retirement, have you saved enough in between to be able to bridge that gap for your lifetime? I see a question here in the chat. Can the lesser earning spouse claim, Suzanne's asking, can the lesser earning spouse claim a spousal benefit and then take at a later time their own benefits? 62, take spousal benefits if they're 62, take the spousal benefit if the spouse is taking the benefit. Yes, Suzanne, there are some claim some now and claim more later strategies. It depends on people's ages. There are a few additional strategies here, couple strategies that have actually been phased out. A few years ago, there were some changes to Social Security that actually added years to its longevity, but closing some of these loopholes. And so I think one key takeaway is that if a spouse is going to claim their spousal benefit, they're going the spouse whose benefit they're claiming on also needs to be taking Social Security. So both people need to be taking Social Security at the same time. Depending on one spouse's age, you could claim and freeze and increase. Again, I would say we're not going to get into that level of complexity in this webinar, but if you shoot your Social Security statements to your advisor, we can run that analysis and see if that's an option for anybody watching this now. This is meant to give kind of a clear understanding of the fact that planning and Social Security go hand in hand, and not just jumping in as early as possible or presuming that waiting as late as possible are your best options. They may be the good options for you, but let's double check. What are trust but verify, isn't it Reagan said, right? We can maybe say, oh, well, we pretty much think we're in good health. We're going to keep working deep into our 60s. We're going to wait to take Social Security until age 70. But let's run the analysis and just double check anyway. Or I'm pretty sure that I need to take Social Security at 62, but let's run the analysis and see what the actual effects of that might be over time. So that's the presentation. I appreciate everybody logging in and giving some time and attention to your Social Security benefits on Valentine's Day. If you're a client and you haven't had a Social Security analysis done yet, I really would encourage you to connect with your advisor here at FFG and have one done soon. It's very easy. All we need are your Social Security statements that you can download from the Social Security website, and we can turn it around very quickly and have an analysis done for you. So I will leave it there. I can leave it open for questions for another minute or two. And we can go, and then we can let you get on with the rest of your Valentine's Day. I don't see any further questions, so I'll just thank you one last time for joining us for our Social Security Planning for Couples webinar. Of course, if you do have questions after the fact, if you're like me, when my wife and I go to appointments, we're usually halfway down the street when we look at each other and say, I meant to ask a question. You can email your FFG financial advisor and ask them your Social Securities directly. You can email me at bullmann@fordfg.com, or you can email our general inbox at info@fordfg.com, and we can route your email to the advisor that you're working with here. So I'll leave it there. Thanks for tuning into this. Happy Valentine's Day. I hope you have a great rest of your day.